roll on this thing now? We're ready to go?
We'll see.
Are you sure
this
we're ready
is why
to go?
they call it 2.0.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's go. Hey, welcome to Why Would You Go There, podcast about travel. I am your host, Troy, and I'm here with my co-host.
Your best friend.
Best friend. I have like multiple best friends in this room, so they're only one
in
of
this
them.
room.
Yeah, I have multiple best friends everywhere. People love me.
what?
Don't you know that?
Yeah, you don't have one over here anymore, so forget it. Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm Lee, by the way.
Whatever.
Nice to meet you.
Who cares? What I
By the way, we're
is,
live.
Yes, we are live, and I want to get to our special guest. Sorry, I didn't give you enough credit for being excited about being live.
Whatever.
We have a special guest today, and I'm going to let that guest introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Wayne.
Wayne is joining us because we're going to talk about a city that I have never been to.
And shame on you.
And
which I can't believe.
You have been to how many times? You've been there.
I've probably been there 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe 4, but I think 3.
Everybody says it's a great city.
Yes.
And I just have never made the time for it. But before we get to it and introduce it, I want to talk about something that we just started this last week, which was last podcast was about Vegas, and we said, hey, ask folks, hey, send us some questions in, and we'll answer them on air. So I'm going to play the first question that you got from, and let's just play it and go.
Hey guys, this is Margaret, longtime listener. Just wanted to check in about the shows and musical residencies that are there. Given that there's so many different musical acts and shows that set up residencies and tour through Vegas, do y'all enjoy shows in Vegas? If so, what are your favorites, and how do you narrow down your options?
Wow.
Great question.
So was it a great question? I fell asleep. You know how, not that we don't appreciate you, Margaret, but that is the definition of a filibuster. She just went on and on and on with that quote. What was the question actually about? I heard her say Vegas, and then I passed out. And now that I've come to, what was the question about?
I think it was basically like, what are your favorite shows in Vegas? And for some reason, she said
so
musical.
You could say that in 3 seconds. Okay.
I think she said musical residences too, which I'm still not even sure what that means.
Is that a house?
Yes, you live there and play music, obviously.
Okay. So what are your Wayne?
Yeah.
Give us a favorite show.
Well, last time we were there, we went to see Raiding the Rock Vault at the Hard Rock Cafe, and that was terrific.
Nice. Okay, so what was that about?
Well, it's the band is made up of lots of former rock stars from these different groups, and they come in and they play their songs.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah, that sounds good.
You know, it's not the household names; it's the guys that were on the tour.
The real musicians.
The real musicians.
Yeah,
not where they polished it off. But I couldn't tell you a single person, but it was
which real musicians really appreciate.
Right? Yeah, I know. Well, I appreciate enough to buy the ticket, but not enough to memorize their name.
The studio musicians in here love that.
It's so true.
Okay, that sounds good. What about you, Lee?
So I love the Cirque du Soleil shows, where they do all the acrobatic stuff, and there's some that have
beautiful
like
women in tights,
their own theme, yes,
leotards,
and
all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
yes, all that. And some of them are in. There's one that's in water. That's the O at Bellagio. There's one that's like based off of like a war theme or whatever, So I love those Cirque du Soleil shows. I've probably been to 4 or 5 different ones.
Yep, we have to. Yeah, I love that too.
So those are my favorite. What about you?
I would say Cirque du Soleil also. I can't say it, but I would say
I thought you were a music guy. You don't like the music stuff?
We have never done a music show at Vegas.
Wow.
So, there's lots of great acts all the time. We just never have.
Do you even care?
Yeah. All right, let's play question number 2.
Long-time listener, first-time caller. What's the best casino that you have been to?
Apparently Grant, likes to, he calls into radio, sports talk all the time, or at least listens to it all the time. But I like the question, which was, what's your favorite casino? And I have casinos ranked in a different way. So, pardon me. I've gambled at the Cosmopolitan, Aria, Cromwell, Luxor, Caesars, Bally's, Paris, Flamingo, Bellagio, Venetian. And I know you've probably gambled at all those places and more. You've probably gambled more than that.
This is sounding like Margaret's question already, but go ahead.
This is an answer.
Oh, sorry.
The answers are allowed to be long, Lee. It's the questions that we want. Grant's question was 7 seconds.
Is this Gamblers Anonymous?
So true.
But
true.
if
This is
you're-
intervention.
If it's for the drinks, the Cosmo, because they have Maker's Mark is their house liquor, and so if you just cheap gambling,
I figured you would somehow revolve the question around liquor. Nice.
for cheap gambling, I really love Paris and Caesars. So those are my kind of my three favorites. What about you?
So I would say my favorite is, I mean, they're all so different, but I would say like my favorite would be Bellagio, just because it's so elegant, and it's just kind of upscale. And then probably the Wynn for the same reason, I guess. Those are two of my favorites. I mean, there's so many favorites. I really can't name enough, but yeah.
All right, one more quick question.
What about Wayne? You don't care about Wayne?
Wayne? You gamble?
Well, I've managed to lose money.
Is it about gambling or about a favorite hotel?
No, it was casino. Casino.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a 7-second question. You couldn't pay attention for 7 seconds.
Then I like the ones downtown where you can gamble really cheap.
Well, I did say Caesars.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's not downtown.
I've been
It's
to the
not
Caesars.
downtown, but
Beautiful.
it is cheap.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And the sports gambling's terrific.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Caesars has a great sports book.
You said that. Yeah, you said that before.
Yeah.
Good job. Let's one more question.
What an idiot.
What is your favorite off the strip place to go to in Las Vegas?
All right, Jeff. All right.
Was Jeff in a tunnel?
It sounded like it.
Was there a train that drove by?
So that was Jeff. What is your favorite off the strip place?
Off the strip. Well, the Hard Rock is terrific. That's
Okay.
off the strip.
You?
I would say Red Rock Canyon.
That's
it's like
way off the strip.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did it not say off the strip?
Well,
Did it say off the strip or did it say way off the strip?
technically, we're off the strip too. I mean, come on, man. He meant someplace actually in Vegas.
You're such an
Where
idiot.
else? Come on.
Come back to me.
Oh, forget it. It's over. Once again, you've ruined another podcast. We are 5 minutes into this thing, and you have totally ruined it. My favorite.
It's okay to have opinions, Lee.
Yes, thank you, Wayne.
My
glad
favorite
somebody
off the
here
strip
cares.
place is the Golden Steer. I just found out about it on my last trip there, and it was awesome. Great food, Rat Pack memorabilia all over the place. That's my favorite off the strip place. You want to try again, or are you going to go with Red Rock or the Grand Canyon, or are you going to go with Hawaii?
I hate you. I really do. I hate you so much.
Take the Carnival Fun Ship for $200.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, off the strip, I guess I would say downtown Las Vegas, like old Las Vegas. I'd just like to go see
And it
that.
just shows you're trash. Okay. All right. Well, hey, listen, you can reach us on Facebook and send us questions about today's podcast, and we'll answer those next time. At Facebook, it's Why Would You Go There? Instagram, it's Why Would You Go There? Send us a picture of something. Send us a recording of you asking a question. And on Twitter, where?
Yeah, just be ready to be mocked if
Yeah.
you want to ask a question.
And where on Twitter?
At Why Would You Go?
At Why Would You Go?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Let's talk about the main part of our podcast. What city are we talking about today?
We were talking about
The Holy City.
The Holy City. Okay.
Israel. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Tel Aviv.
Seriously, what city are we talking about?
No, that's one of the nicknames, or one of the names of Charleston.
Charleston, South
Charleston.
Carolina.
Yeah.
and I have never been there, and you
Yeah.
acted so totally shocked when
I
I
cannot
said
Well,
believe-
that.
you should be ashamed. I mean,
It's
really,
what? It's like what? 5 hours away from us? 5.5, something like that.
it's
6.
5 or 6.
Yeah.
It's
And
a hard 5.
Yeah.
Oh man, you do not want a hard five with me in the car.
I don't know where this is going.
Okay. So Charleston, I have never been there. So you guys are going to
I can't believe it.
Walk me
You're
through
going to want to go
why this
so
city
bad.
is so great.
You're going to want to go so
Well,
bad.
for one thing, it's the second most preserved city in the world, right behind Rome. So
Really?
yeah.
Okay, I am
And
shocked
there's
at that.
a number of reasons for that.
That is great knowledge.
That is.
If he made that up, he did a great job selling that.
No, I heard that. I heard that from
Right, I heard that come right out of my mouth, and I believe it's true because I said it.
Troy. Said, "I whatever you say, go with it."
Yes,
so
oh,
you were
whatever you
learning
say.
so well.
So I'm going to go with it. No, really, I heard it from a very knowledgeable source. It was a tour guide on a.
That wasn't a tour guide. It was a homeless guy that was pretending to be a tour guide.
He might have been a homeless guy.
How much did you pay him?
Well, I think we paid him maybe $30.
Okay, yeah.
But he had to pick up horse piss and throw flags at him and stuff.
Nice.
Okay, so Obviously, first thing I do whenever we talk about a new city is I start talking about or start looking on TripAdvisor. And I looked on TripAdvisor, and they have 3 what I thought was really interesting tours that you can do. They have a historic walking tour, an Old South carriage tour, which the horse just made me think of that, and an alleys and hidden passages tour. And they're all really relatively inexpensive, $20 to $28. But that made me think there must be a lot of historic. It must be a lot like Boston.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of historic stuff there to see,
is.
which Boston's my favorite city. And if it is that way, then I have got to go there.
It is a Southern charm, Boston. I mean, seriously, yeah.
In fact, Boston and South Carolina, before the Civil War, they were sister cities.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, if you're there for just a weekend, what are some things that you go to Charleston? These are, if I come to you next week and say, I'm going next weekend to Charleston, what are the few things that I have to see while I'm there? I'm only there 3 days.
All right. Well, first thing I want to ask you, are you into history or are you into shopping?
History. No, I'm not into shopping.
All right, so you're into history. So a couple things.
People
People that
like
are
he is
watching
into
this,
shopping,
people
but-
that are watching this live are going to say, "Yeah, that guy is into shopping."
Yeah.
But no, I'm into history.
Well, I think you can get both fixes there really easy. But a couple things to do. You're going to have to take a walking tour. First thing, take a morning walking tour before it gets really hot because after May, it's ridiculous. And the mosquitoes are fun too.
Okay.
You're not selling them, Wayne.
Yeah, right. But so take a morning walking tour and get a flair for the city. Try to absorb some of the history, and then you'll know what you really want to go see.
Okay.
And then in the afternoon, you'd want to visit some of the houses there.
Okay.
Lots of the houses are open to the public. You can visit the Calhoun home, which is a terrific house. It's was a home that belonged to John C. Calhoun's son. And then when you leave the city, you're going to want to go visit Drayton Hall. Or
This is all stuff on the outskirts of the city?
all stuff within a short drive.
Okay.
You'll want to go to Drayton Hall.
Now, what's Drayton Hall?
Drayton Hall is a home that belonged to the Middleton family and signers of the Declaration of Independence and Constitution.
Okay.
You might want to visit Magnolia Plantation.
Magnolia Plantation is number 7 on TripAdvisor.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I looked that
Yeah,
up.
it's
I had that
gorgeous.
to talk about.
Yeah.
I got a funny story about that.
Okay, let's hear it.
All right. So,
Funny story about a plantation.
yeah.
This
Yeah.
could be dangerous.
yeah, well, don't worry. You're with a professional. So my wife and I, just after our second trip to Charleston, realized, when Charleston was new and being settled, the Ashley River was the highway. So we chartered a boat, take us up the Ashley River. And I recommend you do that. It's kind of expensive, but it's beautiful. We sailed out of the harbor. You could see Rainbow Row and some of the other historic sites. But then as you go up the Ashley River, you start to see some of the plantations. For example, at Middleton Place, that's where they filmed one of the scenes from The Patriot with Mel Gibson.
Okay. Very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
And then we stopped at a dock, and that dock was at the Middleton Plantation. And we thought, well, we'll get off here, we'll tour it, we'll pay. Mm-hmm. But no, nobody comes there by the dock. So we walked around until we got to the front of it where they're taking that money. We just turned around because we'd already walked the entire plantation.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
And back to the boat. But that was terrific.
Yeah. So, I guess it was a huge walk. I think it's a plantation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a garden.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, it says Magnolia Plantation Gardens. So what else is another thing that you have to do if you're just there for a weekend?
Well, you have to go to Fort Sumter.
Yeah.
So that was first shot fired in the Civil War, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Am I right?
first shot fired was fired from James Island to Fort Sumter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is an island, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's
right. Fort Johnson's on James Island.
So Fort Sumter's actually on an island.
yes.
Yeah.
And there's
You have to take a boat to
I
get
guess
to it,
there's
obviously.
a ton of little islands around there.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Just
yeah.
like-
Lots of little islands, but most of them you're crossing small intercoastal waterways.
Yeah.
To get to them.
And so when was that fort built? Do you have any idea?
Well, it was never completed.
Okay.
But it was started in the 1650s.
Okay. Okay.
And then it was nearly completed when the Civil War began. It wasn't yet stopped.
And then after the war,
No, after the war, it became part of the intercoastal defense.
Okay. So those are kind of the things. Was there anything else? This is a must see. That sounds like you're having a kind of full day if you're doing the Magnolia Plantation.
That's 3 days.
That's 3 days.
Yeah. Right. You need to plan half a day to go to Fort Sumter.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you'll leave out of Patriot Point. At Patriot Point is housed a couple of World War II ships. The big one there is the aircraft carrier, the Yorktown.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
why do you keep saying yeah?
Because he's been there.
I know, but you had something to it. Don't just yeah. We don't need somebody to just yeah the whole time.
Now, you see, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand because Lee loves Charleston, and it's hard for me to hear him talk about it without him being able to jump in.
You can jump in at any time, but don't interrupt Wayne. Don't interrupt Wayne now.
So that one was in the USS Yorktown was in World War II and the Vietnam War.
That's right, and
Oh,
the
good.
Korean.
You can tour it. Yeah.
That's cool.
Right, you can tour it. In fact, there's in the hangar deck, they show video of actual footage filmed by the planes and on the ship during the Battle of I can't remember, one of the World War II battles. Pretty graphic. It makes it very real when you're standing there on the deck.
Yeah, I like and don't like that kind of stuff. I had a comment. It's kind of like the we've talked about this before. The 9/11 memorial. I liked it, but I only wanted to see it once. Anything that's got that much graphicness to it, I'm like, okay, I need to see it, but I only need to see it once.
You have a responsibility to see it, but once you have, it's hard too powerful to do it again.
And I can imagine for some of those World War II folks that we don't have very many veterans around anymore. But if they went there, it would be because you lived that, like we lived 9/11 or lived through it. They lived through that, and I can imagine being pretty difficult. But I still would like to see. I didn't realize that they had all those World War II ships there.
Yeah. Patriot Point's a terrific place.
Yeah, it
well
is.
named.
Fort Moultrie.
Yeah, Fort Moultrie one of the battles of the Revolutionary War at Fort Moultrie, and it was involved in the shelling of Fort Sumter.
Oh wow!
Did you realize that much history?
No, I had no idea that it was that much. I knew Fort Sumter and I knew the start of the Civil War, but that's really the only thing that I knew about Charleston. So,
well, take for example the flag of South Carolina. Mm-hmm. It's got the palmetto tree on it and what looks like a moon, but it's not a moon. The reason, let me ask Lee this. Lee, do you know why the palmetto flag is on, or why the palmetto tree is on the flag?
I know, but I can't remember, so I guess I don't really know.
All right.
They have a lot of palmetto trees?
They do have a lot, but that's not the reason. So during the Revolutionary War, Fort Moultrie was built out of palmetto trees. And when the British Navy sailed into the harbor and began to shell it, the cannonball bounced right off of it. And then the British Navy got stuck on sandbar. Mm-hmm. Colonials picked up the cannonball and fired them back.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
No, history tidbit.
Okay, I thought I knew that. I didn't
no, you
that.
didn't. You didn't.
Definitely didn't know that.
Yeah. Wayne actually, in all fairness, didn't know any of that. He made it all up.
But I said it so
convincingly that people are going to believe it.
I am definitely convinced.
Yeah. So if you're there for a week, what are some other kind of outskirts things, or even in the city that you're not going to see first thing? Because you already said, hey, you're there a few days, you're going to do a walking tour, and then you're going to decide what you're going to do maybe that afternoon. Then you're going to maybe see Magnolia Plantation. Mm-hmm. Definitely going to see Fort Sumter. So that's kind of maybe 3 days. That's a full weekend if you're driving there. Yep. So what are some other things that you think you should really do?
Okay, well, first of all, I think if your first time to Charleston, you should make it a 3 or 4 day and stay downtown. When you go back and you take the kids, there's some great beaches around Charleston. Isle of Palms, terrific beach, a little bit pricey, but terrific beach. And then for a more beachy, laid-back vibe, there's Folly Beach.
Which is right there, right?
Because
Isle of Palms is a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's
not far.
It's not that far, but the traffic through Sullivan Alley is atrocious.
That's one thing about, not interrupting you there a little bit, but that's one thing about Charleston that
we interrupt people here, Lee.
Is the traffic can sometimes be a little bit tough just because, it's a beach place, so sometimes there are certain areas that get a little cramped, and then even into Charleston, there's really just kind of one main way in, right?
Yeah, right. There's the interstate in, and then there's 17, the Kings Highway, that really bogs down. And Charleston, like a lot of southern cities, it's overpopulated and it's just busting at its seams.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I was going to talk ghost tours.
Oh yeah,
you have to do the ghost tours.
Yeah. So if you're in Charleston, you got to do a ghost tour. We talked about this previously before, where I talked about one in New Orleans, and yeah, ghost tours are all over Charleston too, and it's got kind of an eerie feel there, just because it's got those, the angel oak trees that are almost like huge weeping trees with the big branches. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and a lot of Spanish moss on them.
Yeah, live oak.
Oh, they're so beautiful. I love those trees.
Me too.
Love those trees.
That's one of the things that I miss about Florida. Every time we start traveling towards the south, I'm like, oh man, pine trees and Spanish moss. It's beautiful.
And some of those are 1,500, maybe even 2,000 years old. So it's kind of crazy. But they offer a pretty good background for like a ghost tour, and then of course you got the other stuff like the history of it. So yeah, ghost tours are fun to do.
It's such a tragic city. I mean, the city's known nothing but tragedy until the last 20 years. It's been in its renaissance.
So unpack that a little bit. Tell me what you mean by the city's
right,
other than the Civil War.
So why is Charleston so well preserved? I mean, it's the second most preserved city in the country. Why save these old buildings? I mean, Knoxville didn't. So why did Charleston? And the reason is money. There was none to tear them down and fix them. So during the Civil War, obviously it was shelled and it burned.
Right.
And then after the Civil War, there was an earthquake. And then every 20 or 30 years or so, God throws a hurricane at it.
Yeah.
So no money to fix them. So they just patch them with the best they can. And now it's become such a tourist destination, and lots of folks have moved down there, and excellent preservation society in Charleston that
that's
that has brought on
one
its
of the things that I
renaissance.
was impressed with is when I started researching for this, and thanks for the pictures. I saw some of your pictures, and I looked at some pictures online. Is just how many old buildings they have. There are just tons of pictures. If you just Google Charleston, you're going to see tons of pictures, and you've sent me a bunch of pictures. We're going to post those for our listeners to look at later on. Just lots of old buildings, and so that's an interesting take on it. I had no idea, first of all, that there were that many old buildings. I assumed that it was a random old coastal city, like any other coastal city, Jacksonville or whatever, and it doesn't look like it according to the pictures.
Yeah.
Well, the first time my wife and I went to Charleston, I think it was 2003, when you come in and you get off the interstate, heading on Meeting Street, going downtown, there was parts of Charleston you're like, I'm going to get killed here.
Really? Yeah. It's run down looking?
Oh, it was terrible. I mean, and then you got into the historic area, and then, of course, South of Broad, it was all restored.
Oh, I love the Southern Broad.
Right.
Oh, especially a restored one, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, so when you go to Charleston, you'll realize a lot of the money, if you have money, you live in Charleston. If you have a lot of money, you live south of Broad in Charleston.
Okay.
Just the houses become a step above.
Yeah, they're nice. They're big.
Well, what else do we want to talk about?
Well, Lee mentioned the ghost tours. So, Lee, tell me, you've been on a couple of them, right? How many?
I've only been on one, actually.
All right, so take your best shot or make up your favorite story from your ghost tour.
It was too long. I honestly am not. I can't remember.
So we've done a couple.
Okay. Sorry.
And Lee, he's a fraud. We've done a couple. And the funny thing is you go to the same spot with different ones and you get a different story. So I think a lot of them are just made up or passed on. But, do the walking tour to get the history, but then do the ghost tours to get the flair.
Okay.
Really terrific story.
So did you do those? Are they at night, I assume?
Yeah. The one I did was at night.
Yeah,
right.
They're all at night.
Okay. All right, sweet. Let's talk about food. Lee's favorite section of
I do love food.
You love food. Look at you. Obviously, people are going to see this and they're going to realize that you really do love food.
This is kind of rude.
Is this camera slimming?
Yeah, it is very slimming. Yeah,
not for me.
So I TripAdvisor and looked up restaurants and fine dining restaurants and so forth. I want to get your take on both of you on where are some places to eat, but tell me if you've eaten at either one of these places: Hall's Chop House or Charleston Grill.
No.
Those are 1 and 2.
I've heard of Charleston Grill, and
Yeah.
I've had so many people tell me it's good, but I have not been
Okay,
there.
those are 1 and 2 on TripAdvisor, and they have 7,000 reviews between the two of them. So those are 2 places to think about if you're in Charleston. So is there something specific to Charleston, some specific type of food? Like in Tampa, it's a Cuban sandwich. What is it?
You have to eat crab
You mean
cakes.
Miami for Cuban sandwich?
Negative. Don't make me punch you right here on this camera.
Don't break your hand.
Yeah. So you interrupted Wayne.
Sorry, Wayne.
Yeah. So
You weren't going to do that.
what was
Well-
So what was it, Wayne?
It's a chance to mock
Well,
suds.
you've got to get the crab cakes.
Okay.
You have to, and then you have to try the shrimp and grits.
Oh,
Very
yeah, I
true,
do
very
love
true.
shrimp and grits. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a coastal city, obviously,
Yeah.
so any seafood is going to be great. But yeah, the shrimp and grits is kind of what stood out to me. I've got a few different places that I kind of took note of, and then I also had somebody at work that goes there all the time. It's their favorite place to go, and she was actually supposed to get married there this past year, and the hurricane came. So she ended up not getting married there, and like last second she had to cancel everything, and she got married in Knoxville. But she loves Charleston. So I'll tell you a couple of the places that she gave me as well, because they go there quite a bit. But there's a place called Hyman's that's kind of it's really good, but I feel like it's just like
It's touristy.
so touristy.
Yeah, and you're going to wait
Have you eaten there?
forever. Yes, twice.
Yeah, I've eaten there a few times, and it's so touristy. It's good, but it's definitely touristy.
Sometimes I like to do that though.
Yeah.
It's like
Well,
the
I think it's your
time at a
first
place,
time.
I like
I
to
think
go
it's a
do
good
whatever's
place
the
to go.
tourist
Right,
place.
well, so in there, the tables will have names on them of stars that have eaten there, and that's kind of cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd recommend that one. There is also, you might like this one, Troy, Henry's Restaurant, Bar, and Nightclub. Like the bartenders wear like 30s or 40s outfits.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah. And they play some jazz and stuff, and it's got a speakeasy bar, and it has
Yeah.
and it's got like a rooftop deck and a porch. I mean, it's like a pretty good place to go, and
Well, any place that serves alcohol is a great place, which
yeah.
is every
Then
place.
Tommy Commons. You're going to have to go to Tommy Commons.
Tommy Commons.
the Irish pub there.
Okay.
Terrific.
Yep.
You couldn't get close to it when we were there this past weekend.
I bet.
Yeah, it was nuts.
I bet. And then Poe's Tavern in Sullivan Island. You heard of that? Been there?
I have not.
So it's named after Edgar Allan Poe.
Who was stationed at Fort Moultrie?
I'm getting ready to sneeze.
Okay. So it's named after Edgar Allan Poe, and so you have not eaten there.
I haven't, no.
Okay. Well, what about you? Well,
Well, we love Charleston Crab House, which is right off of right off Market Street, about the middle of the slave market. It's terrific.
right in the middle of the slave market. Huh?
Yeah, so there's a market that runs up Market Street off of the harbor, and it's called the Slave Market. Not because they ever sold slaves there; slaves were sold inside, but it was where slaves came and sold their goods at the slave market.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. All right.
Yeah, right. It's kind of cool.
It's very interesting. So, what else? What other restaurants you want to talk about?
So kind of a laid back place that the girl told me about, Lindsay, that was supposed to get married there. She said that there's a Lazy Dog Cafe. It's in Folly Beach. It's just right off the beach, I guess. And it's dog friendly for all those people that are dog friendly.
All of Folly is dog friendly.
So I'm not going there.
Yeah,
But
where's the place that's dog enemy? That's where you're going.
But she said they have really good Bloody Marys and mimosas, and they have a really good Reuben wrap. So if you're not in the mood for seafood,
I
then
guarantee
a
you
Reuben
I would
wrap.
not be eating a Reuben wrap if I was in a seafood area. I'm going to be eating some seafood probably. If I'm going to give up seafood, maybe for steak, but no, probably seafood.
Yeah, I don't think I ever had a bad meal there.
Okay.
It's all good. And then she mentioned Kaminsky's, and it's a dessert cafe, and it has alcoholic milkshakes.
No, haven't eaten there.
Alcoholic milkshakes. I don't even know what.
That sounds terrible.
Sounds dangerous.
Yeah, that sounds like you're going to throw up the next day.
Yeah.
That's not no. I don't want any milk in with my alcohol. Basically, I like to mix my alcohol with alcohol.
More alcohol.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Man, you know me so well. Yeah,
I really do.
yeah. What do you mix that bourbon with? Just bourbon. Okay, so what else do we need to talk about? What are some other things that are special about Charleston? We have talked a lot about places to see in Charleston. You've kind of got me pumped a little bit about wanting to go, especially when I looked at the photos, I was kind of excited about it.
So the shopping, and there's two different types of shopping there. In the slave market, which is an open air market, lots of craftsmen sell pottery and different types of things. Now, it's not as good as it used to be because it's money runs things. It brings things back and then it runs them. So it's become a little bit commercial. Especially where they've enclosed some of it. But you could still find some very authentic Charleston wares and the reed baskets and whatnot, which are outrageously expensive.
Okay.
And then you've got your retail shopping like you would find in New York. That's on King Street. Your Tommy Bahama's and some of your other designer stores.
So are these roads they're like a pedestrian walkways?
Yes.
Okay.
So
like an outdoor mall or
the
something
slave
like that?
market is open air, and you can enter it from both sides.
You don't know how bad I wish we had not explained what the slave market was, so that we could just keep saying that over and
open
over.
air.
Well,
over and over again, and have
Right.
people that we might get some people.
The first time we went there,
in.
that's actually every time we went there, that's the way it was referred. When we went back, they stopped calling it that, and I get it, and I can understand why they quit calling it that. But if that was its name, that was its name.
Yeah.
So we'll just
we had the same kind of
we'll just
conversation
call it the
about
market.
Mount McKinley the other day when we were talking about Alaska a couple of podcasts ago. We talked now.
You love talking about previous
Yes,
podcasts.
Mount
Good
McKinley is no
grief.
longer Mount McKinley. Now it's Denali because that's what the natives named it, and so they've changed the name of that. So it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah,
people,
right.
I have mixed emotions about it. I understand
It's whitewashing history.
Yeah, I understand why we want to get away from these things, but this is actually, hey, it was bad. It happened. We can't ignore it. So let's just call it what it was.
Yeah. Right, exactly. If you don't face your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, that I think your question was that's an open air market, and there's a museum in the front of it, Daughters of the Confederacy, which is not a great museum, but nonetheless you should go through it because there are a lot of cool artifacts in there.
Okay, all right.
So I wanted to. Wayne mentioned this earlier. He talked about Folly Beach, but I just wanted to mention it's literally like right down from that open air market.
Oh, yeah,
it's like right
it's
there,
just right
so
across
it's
the
pretty cool. You can
Ashley
stay
River.
downtown. I don't know that there's a ton of places to stay along the beach like there
Not
typically
commercial.
is. Yeah,
Houses, condos. That's about it. There is no there's no Hilton on Folly Beach. It's we stayed. In fact, that's where we stayed this last time we went. Yeah. We stayed in a condo there. The first night the condo was full, and I heard every step they took, including their dogs.
Yeah.
But when it was empty, it was terrific.
Yeah. So let me see if I understand this correctly. So if you go to Charleston, you can say I'm going to go for a week, and it's summertime. I can go down there and get one place that's kind of in the hub where I'm staying, and I can get to the beach, I can get to this market, and I could still get to downtown. Is all that within walking distance?
No, the beach isn't walking distance.
Okay.
You'll need to drive.
Okay.
I mean, Charleston is perfect for really two different types of vacations. There's
Okay.
one you take your family on where you stay at the beach.
Yep.
You stay at Folly, you stay at Isle Palms. And there's another one you take your wife, and it's 3 or 4 days, and you stay in the historic district.
Okay. All right.
So I'm sure you've heard of the Citadel, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So the old Citadel is just north of the historic district, and it's now a Embassy Suites. So you could stay in the Citadel.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That'd be just kind of cool to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I stayed. Yeah. Well, what else we want to talk about?
I wanted to tell. Wayne mentioned it earlier. Rainbow Row. He just mentioned it kind of in passing, and it's kind of in that downtown area, but it's just a bunch of beautiful houses. I guess they're houses, right?
Yeah, all on the waterfront.
Like row houses or something?
Yeah, and they're all like pastel Easter colors. So it's just different colors. It's
And
pretty to.
right, they're all separated by a porch. And the porches in Charleston are all run north-south so that they catch the wind.
Okay. That's interesting.
Ancient air conditioning.
Yeah, that's pretty okay. Sweet. Well, what else? We're about to wrap this thing up. Have we talked about all that we can about Charleston?
Wayne, I think so.
We could go on, but that's pretty much the highlights. I think you need to go and you need to discover it on your own, and then you'll find what you love about it, and then you'll discover more about that.
So, how many times have you been?
Maybe 8.
Okay, so you really love that place.
Oh yeah, my wife and I. It's our favorite place.
Okay, sweet. All right, well let's go around and do some final thoughts. I'll close because I really don't have any final thoughts. Well, I'll make some up because that's what I do. But,
It's so true.
Why don't we let our guests go first and tell us what your final thoughts are about Charleston? You've been talking about your final thoughts the whole time.
Yeah, I think I have. Yeah. Just recap. When you go down, you need to make sure you absorb some of the history. And don't go down there and get caught up in, well, it's just food or it's just shopping, because then you're just going to miss the point.
Don't get caught up in food. Wait a minute. What the heck? It's the only place I travel for. Only reason I travel.
Oh, so give us your final thoughts.
In summary,
okay,
is I cannot believe you've not been to Charleston, but it's a great place.
Stop beating me down over this. All right, I haven't been.
Yeah, you need to go in Charleston. The graveyards. You need to go to the graveyards.
Yeah, I can put them in one of those.
Yeah, right. You would have a lot of company because they're full. But you need to go to the graveyard and go. You need to go to John C. Calhoun's grave, and you need to apologize for never coming to Charleston.
I was wondering where you're going with that graveyard thing.
Yeah. So it's beautiful place, great food. It's like I said, it's like a historic South Boston type place. I think you'd love it. So I would highly recommend it. And for those of our listeners that live in Knoxville, it's so close. It's just so easy to get to. You can drive there basically for a long weekend without a problem. So yeah, you got to go there.
All right. Well, I will certainly give it some thought.
That means no.
No, it doesn't. You're not one of my children. Don't act like it.
I'm probably young enough.
Yeah, you might be. People see this thing and say, "Look, who is that old bald guy over there talking about traveling?"
Yeah.
Surprised you can even get around.
Hover chair.
Well,
we hid it from the cameras.
Oh man! Well, I am going to end with our motto. And first, I will remind folks though that hey, you can ask us questions, send us questions through Twitter. You can record them, send them through Instagram, Facebook, and ask questions about Charleston. And we'll come back next time and answer those questions. What I'll probably do is ask Wayne about those questions because I won't be able to answer any of them, but I'll get you an answer before we get on the podcast. So you can ask me anything you want about alcohol. That's fine. I'm open to talking about that. I didn't talk very much this podcast, which is really hurting me, but I'm kind of making up for it now. But my final thoughts are I have got to go. It's one of those places that I didn't know what I didn't know about, if that makes any sense.
You'll love it.
I think most people think, oh, okay, it's a beach place. And no offense to South Carolina Beach, it's okay. The Folly Beach is okay. It's not like a lot of your Florida beaches, but the other beaches are a little bit better in my opinion. And it's not a bad beach, but I think most people just think it's a beach and I can go to a better beach.
Yeah,
but it's so much
more
than that. Yeah. So much more.
Yeah. I kind of imagined it as Myrtle Beach.
No, totally.
Until we had this conversation. So at least now I know. Okay, I really should. I should try it, and we'll have a weekend trip there sometime within the next year or so. Anyway, I'm going to end with our podcast. It is better to go someplace that you hate than to not go any place at all.
You're going to end with our podcast. Good
I'm
job.
going to end with our motto. Listen, that is our podcast. And what did I say earlier? You say what you say with conviction and people believe it. Cue the music, Sean. We're out of here. What's wrong with you people?
Sean, can you edit this out? That guy.
We never edit anything out. That was our
so
motto.
True.
I thought this was live.
Yeah.
It's so true. Listen, I'm just glad that it didn't go south. Like you normally take it. You know how you normally get all derogatory and disgusting and trashy.
What are you talking about?
Yourself.
Like it work?
Like anywhere this guy's been.
People love my sense of humor. People love me. I keep telling my wife that all the time. She says, you're going to offend people. And I say, no, they love me. I'm so dang
Troy,
funny.
we learn to love you.
We love to hate you.
Oh, man.
That's so true, man.
All right, I think that
Wayne was knowledgeable over here. He was dropping all kinds of knowledge.
Really
Man.
Listen, he is way too smart for this podcast.
No, I think
So
you guys
true. You
think
got to dumb it down a little bit, man. Come on.
I did make you look bad, but I'll try harder not to.